Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Indiana Court of Appeals is now in session. Please be seated.
So welcome to the retirement ceremony of our friend and colleague, Ezra H. Friedlander. I'd like to first introduce you to your hosts, and those are the members of the Indiana Court of Appeals. To my left here is Judge Rudy Pyle. Judge James Kirsch is next to him. Judge Edward Najum is next to him. Judge Terry Crone. Judge John Baker. Judge Patricia Riley. Judge Mark Bailey, Judge Melissa May, Judge Margaret Robb, Judge Paul Mathias, Judge Cale Bradford, Judge Elaine Brown, and we also have here present Judge Robert Altice, who is soon to be on the Indiana Court of Appeals. We also have several other people here. Judge Martha Wentworth from the Indiana Tax Court. Where are you, Marty? Are you here? There you are. Thank you. Senior Judge Thomas Fisher is here. Senior Judge William Gerard is here. Are you here, William? Bill?
No.
Senior Judge and former Chief Justice Randall Shepard is here as well. I'd also like to recognize a number of special guests here today. We have our Lieutenant Governor here. Where are you, Lieutenant Governor? Not here. Mike Ahearn is here, General Counsel for the Governor of Indiana. We have from our state courts, Judge Stanley Levin from Allen Superior Court. Judge Levin, thank you.
Stovers.
Judge Martha, a friend of mine from a long time ago, Mary Willis from Henry Circuit Court is also here present and representing the Indiana Judges Association as its president. Former Justice Ted Bohm, I see that you are here, and your wife Peggy. And from the federal bench, we have a great representation of federal benchers here. We have from the United States Court of Appeals, 7th Circuit, we have Judge Hamilton. I saw you here earlier.
Over there.
Over here. And his wife, Inga Vanderkruisen. And we have Judge John Tinder here. Thank you for coming as well. We have Sarah Evans Barker. Did she make it? There you are. I know you had a conflict, but I'm glad to see that you're here. It's a real tribute that you came here. Judge William Lawrence is here. Judge Jane Magnus Stinson, I see right next to her. Magistrate Baker, I see you behind Justice Bohm. Josh Minkler, the U.S. Attorney, is also here present. Thank you for coming. We have several people from our legal community as well. We have Jeff Hawkins, the president of the Indiana State Bar Association. We have Tom Piers sitting next to him, the executive director of the Indiana State Bar Association. Scott Chin is here representing the Indianapolis Bar. Julie Armstrong is here from the Indianapolis Bar as well. Terrence Tharp, you are here representing as president of the Marion County Bar. Tom Hayes, there you are, right next to Terrence, as a president of the Defense Trial Council of Indiana. David Powell is here, executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council. I'm almost done with all of our honorary guests, and if you're not included in that, you are honorary anyway. We have Dean Andrew Klein here from McKinney Law School. We have Dean Klein?
No.
Nope. Lisa Hosey from the Maurer School.
In the back.
In the back, there you are. Lee Christie from the Judicial Nominating Commission. as well as Rudy Ackham from the Judicial Nominating Commission as well. Kevin Smith from our Supreme Court, Clerk of our Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. Lilia Judson is here from her new title, I have to say it out loud, this is the first I've heard it, Interim Chief Administrative Officer of the Supreme Court. And next to her is David Remendini, who is the Interim Executive Director of the Division of State Court Administration. Adrian Marion is here from the Judicial Nominating Commission. Karen Graves is here as the Administrator of the Tax Court. Julia Orzeski is here. She's always here for every event. Thank you, Julia, for coming. From the Indiana Commission for Continuing Legal Education. And last but not least, the Court of Appeals Administrator who made this all possible, Steve Lancaster. So let's give an applause to all of those folks. Let me go ahead now and introduce to you our Chief Justice Loretta Rush, for introduction of members of your court and as well as your remarks.
All right, thank you, Chief Judge Vedic. I have my colleagues in the court. We just recessed from a day of conference. I have former Chief Justice, Justice Brett Dixon. I have Justice Robert Rucker, Justice Steve David, and Justice Mark Massa. And on behalf of the Supreme Court, Zeke, we're going to miss you. We're going to miss reading your quality opinions. The bar that you set for the Indiana appellate system is so high. A man of integrity, a scholar, your business sense, your commercial sense. I'm glad you're going to be a senior judge. I look forward to reading those opinions. But we really wish you a well-deserved, restful, but it won't be with you, retirement. Thank you for your family that all came. But you've been very friendly. I've been on the court for 3 years now. You were very welcoming from the beginning. And I was not happy when you showed up at my desk, in my office one day saying that you were thinking about retirement. We worked well together, and we'll miss you.
Thank you. Miss you also.
So, of course, there's various people, Zeke, who want to give their regards to you. And I know you said you don't want this to be a eulogy. So, but let's start with Mark Ahearn, who has a special surprise for you. Yes, please, over there, if you would.
I thought you were going to bring the governor. That'd be a real special surprise.
So first, we'd like to thank Steve Lancaster. I'm Mark Ahearn, the governor's general counsel. I'd just like to thank Steve Lancaster for putting me in the agenda as soon as his, where I follow the Chief Justice of Indiana. So, Steve, my remarks are short, and they're these. If, when I were a young lawyer, had been a young lawyer, someone had come to me and said, Mark, there's a chance that you might know or talk to a member of the Indiana Court of Appeals or a member of the Indiana Supreme Court, I would have suggested that maybe they should seek a profession that didn't involve prediction. Yet here I am. So I am, Judge, truly honored on behalf of the governor of the state of Indiana, who is recovering well from 2 surgeries, to recognize not just your tenure, but the accomplishments inside the years that you have served the law and the court in Indiana. And so on behalf of the governor, I present to you, with your permission, a Sagamore the Law.
Thank you.
He just told me that's number 4. Thank the governor for that. Jeff Hawkins, our president from the Indiana State Bar Association. Jeff, please step forward.
Well, thank you, Madam Chief Judge, and members of the Court of Appeals, Judge Friedlander, and the Supreme Court, and guests. It's a great honor to be here as the representative of the lawyers of Indiana, the members of the Indiana State Bar Association. I was also thankful that the governor's office gave me the memo of the blue suit and the light blue tie for the speaker's attire for today. I was touched at the recent bar admission ceremony by the Chief Judge's comments about you, Judge Friedlander. I think I was touched more than anything by it, by the way that she said that you called her off on the great lengthy stories about how wonderful a guy you are. You wanted to honor your son-in-law, the admittee, and seeing the look on your face, the aw shucks. Because when I look in this room, there are some amazing people in this room, and many of you I've had the opportunity to meet. I regret over the years. You're one that I haven't had as much opportunity to get to know as well, but your reputation precedes you so well that it is perhaps doubly honorable for me to be able to have an opportunity to speak about a guy that maybe I haven't had the opportunity to meet so well, but your reputation is so great for a humble servant, somebody who fills the discussion of the bench and the bar so well, but doesn't seek the limelight. The quiet servants, and I look in this room and I see many people like you, and we've had opportunity to honor many of them over the years, but it's a high honor today to be able to recognize a humble servant who has served us so well, and it makes all of us proud to be lawyers practicing in the state of Indiana with jurists such as yourself, and I thank you. And I have a gift for you from the Indiana State Bar Association.
Thank you.
It's pointed correctly, and this is a picture of the Indiana Court of Appeals room.
Great. Thank you.
Scott Chin, representing the Indianapolis Bar Association.
Well, thank you, Chief Judge Vedic, and may it please the court. I bring you greetings today on behalf of the Indianapolis Bar Association President John Trimble, its President-elect, the Honorable Robin Moberly, Executive Director Julie Armstrong, who of course is here, and the Indy Bar's Board of Directors, its staff, and its nearly 5,000 members. Those greetings come easily to you, Judge Friedlander, as we celebrate your career. 3 quick points, I promise quick. First, from the Bar Association's perspective, Judge Friedlander is the epitome of an active and lifelong local bar leader. His commitment to the bar is unquestionable as he celebrates his 50th year of membership this year. And his service to our Bar Association, the Indianapolis Bar Association and Foundation, as a former board member of the foundation and as a distinguished and life fellow, for which we thank you, has contributed to in countless ways to the bar and to the community. Second, let me just say a quick word about Attorney Friedlander. I became a lawyer roughly at the same time that Judge Friedlander was appointed to the Court of Appeals. And as I began the practice of law, I trained under lawyers who worked with then Attorney Friedlander on a case that many of you probably are familiar with called the Cypriot Mosaics case, in short.
I lost that case, by the way.
Well, the point is this. if I might, Your Honor.
Bad memories.
The stories about that case to me as a young lawyer were engaging, and they spoke to somebody like me just beginning this profession about what lawyers in our profession can accomplish and be part of. And that case is simply one of the most interesting and sort of internationally profound cases in Indiana history. And to go full circle, as I know Judge Friedlander will remember, he kindly granted our request just a couple years ago to be part of sort of a retrospective in connection with our annual Southern District Federal Court, which I know our Southern District friends will remember, history seminar, in which he gathered with all of those colleagues and relived that case, which again is a case that in some ways put Indiana on the international legal map. Finally, a word about Judge Friedlander's successor, Judge Robert Altice. Now, I promise I'm not getting ahead of myself, as Judge Altice will have his celebratory moment, as we all know, soon. Rather, I simply want to make the point that Judge Friedlander has been a model lawyer judge, a member of the profession, not just the judiciary. And we bar junkies really appreciate that. And by doing so, Judge Friedlander has paved the way for a judge like Bob Altice, who also has been so active in the leadership of the Indy Bar, to follow the same path. And for that model, Judge Friedlander, we thank you. And one last note. On behalf of the Indianapolis Bar Association, you should know, Your Honor, that we'll be making a contribution to the David Friedlander Scholarship at Indiana University.
Thank you.
In your honor.
Judge Mary Willis, President of the Indiana Judges Association. Please step forward.
Judge Friedlander, Justices of the Supreme Court, my colleagues on the Court of Appeals, my colleagues on the bench and the bar, and all the guests and family that are here today. We were told to keep our remarks short, and I intend to do so. It doesn't take long to say thank you. The trial judges, the Indiana Judges Association, have a simple message, and that is thank you to Judge Friedlander. Thank you for serving the bench well. Thank you for leaving a body of work that we can be proud of. And thank you for calling the balls and strikes that we send up to you as our body of work. We can only appreciate that. And it doesn't take long to say thank you with the heartfelt words. The Indiana Judges Association has also made a donation to the David Friedlander Scholarship Fund that Indiana University will take in your honor on this occasion.
Thank you.
Mr. Larry Morris, who was Judge Friedlander's senior clerk for 22 years and is soon to be the court administrator for the Court of Appeals. Larry?
Thank you, Chief Judge Vedic. Judge, I think they're trying to freeze me by putting me so deep in the order here. Well, I've been asked to speak on behalf of the people who worked with Judge for all these years. The law clerks, and I think there were 15 of us, and the administrative assistants, and I believe there were 4. As you know, Judge began serving on the court in 1993, and at that time, it was typical that a judge had still had 3 law clerks, but then they were rotating positions 1 or 2 years. Well, when he came on, he quickly realized the value of experience in a high-volume court like the Indiana Court of Appeals. So he, along with several others, began to spearhead a movement to transform those kind of those temporary rotating positions into something more permanent. So not only do we, who have worked in his office, owe him a debt of gratitude for being able to work with the court for longer than a year or 2, but so does everybody else who's done that in the intervening years and is currently doing so. Well, I interviewed with the judge in early summer of 1993 when he occupied the office of the baby judge, which is at the far end of the floor. That's where they kind of outcast the newest judge. I think they still call him the baby judge, but in any event, I walked into his office in the early summer, and the first thing he said to me is, I will treat you like a professional, and I expect you to conduct yourselves like professionals. And he's always been true to that word. Well, also in that interview, I looked on his desk. Actually, Judge, it was the first thing that caught my eye. And there was a baseball there that was signed by Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. Well, of course, I'm a big Reds fan, and Big Red Machine was Ken Griffey, and his son, Jr., was the biggest thing going in baseball at the time. So I duly admired the ball, and he said, well, you know, my brother-in-law is an owner of the Seattle Mariners, which was very impressive even to a Reds fan. And perhaps, you know, I can see if we can find another ball like that. Well, of course, the outcome of the story is that I was hired, and I began.
Did you get the ball?
What's that?
Did you get the ball?
Well, I began working in his office the Tuesday after Labor Day in '93, a few months later. And about a month or 2 after that, Judge Friedlander came into the office, again, still never the baby judge was, and he said hi to us all like he did every morning on the way in, and he stopped at Sherry's desk and tossed me a baseball. I have my own Griffey game of baseball.
Thanks, Jeff.
And to be honest with you, Judge, and this is the truth, that ball, of course, occupies a place of honor on my shelf. But when I look at it, I think of Judge Friedlander more than the Griffeys. Well, anyway, Judge told me that I have 5 to 7 minutes, so I better hustle this along. One of the things that I learned to appreciate most about Judge Friedlander in all the years that we've had and all the discussions that we've had, and especially him as a jurist, is that he is endowed with an uncommon dose of common wisdom, common sense. He doesn't let a beguiling legal argument turn common sense on its head in terms of the ruling. His instincts are almost invariably dead on. And I guess to put it plainly, he is one of the wisest men I've ever known, and that goes not only for legal matters, but personal matters as well, because we've had many such discussions over the years. Well, the one thing that I can add, that we can add, because I speak on behalf of these people, is what it's like to work for Judge Friedlander. And I can tell you the first thing is the judge does not like the word boss. Now, typically that only came up one day a year. That was Boss's Day. And Judge believes Boss's Day was an invention of Hallmark to sell cards, and he's probably right. But in any event, we dutifully, every day or once a year, we bought the Boss's Day card and gave it to him. But I tell you, even though he was, I suppose, technically a boss, he's much more a friend, and that's the way we all regard him. So, it will be no surprise to you, his family, and his friends, and his colleagues, that he is as good a person to work for as you would think he is. We've had 22 years of good times and tough times, and he has always, not with not one exception, treated me and us with respect and kindness. We never experienced the fallout of a bad day, if you had them, or tough times. We were never the proverbial cat that got kicked if things weren't going well. Quite the opposite, actually. I was just talking yesterday with Jennifer and Heather, two of the current clerks, about something that I think best illustrates Judge Friedlander, and that is the question, how are you? In our society now, how are you has really been transformed into a form of greeting. Hi, how are you? Fine, how are you? Really just saying hello and hi. But with Judge, it was always a question, how are you? And if we answered with a flippant, fine, he was as likely to say, no, really, how are you doing? You have a good weekend? How are the kids? You know, that sort of thing. So he cared about us, and he really wanted to know how it was with us and how it was with our families. Our kids love him. Through the years, they draw him pictures and they color pages on coloring books and hand them to him. And they make little crafty things, and he puts these things up in his office. As a matter of fact, Heather was telling me the other day, we've been in the process of downsizing from the palatial sort of digs we had here to the less palatial digs he will have as senior judge across the street. And so, any time you move from a big house to a little, you're sort of triaging your possessions. This goes home, this goes in the trash, this goes across the street. And so, as he was doing this and Heather was sitting there, he came to a little cardboard car that evidently Steak and Shake was handing out 5 years ago for kids to keep themselves occupied while they were eating. And Heather's oldest daughter, Ellie, who I think was 4 at the time, colored the car, constructed it, colored it, put stickers on it, and gave it to Judge. And there it sat 2 weeks ago, still there. And he was about to put it in across the street pile. And Heather said, Judge, Ellie will forgive you.
It's true.
Well, in closing, I'm reminded of the line of the theme song of the movie To Serve With Love. How can I thank someone who's taken me from crayons to perfume? Well, that broadens to everybody who's worked in your chambers. How can we thank somebody who's been so kind to us? You helped us launch our legal careers. You helped us launch, and that includes careers on the court and, of course, otherwise. You gave us the flexibility to participate in the lives of our children. You and Linda have cared for us and about us, and it was always clear to us that we mattered to you. And we thank you for that. You shared our joys, you shared our sorrows in ways that would take much longer than the 5 to 7 minutes you gave me to describe. But that's my limit, and I see I've reached it. So it's not enough, but it's going to have to do. Judge, Linda, it's been a privilege, it's been a pleasure, and we thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Curtis Simic, the President Emeritus from the Indiana University Foundation. Mr. Simic.
Thank you. This makes me nervous, see?
Well, you got the big red folder, made me nervous.
Big red folder. It'll be short. It'll be short. My retirement office is on the campus away from Showalter House, but it's the 3rd floor above the 2 floors of the Bloomington Campus Police Department. So we've called ourselves above the law, but I won't do that here. This is not a good thing. If you tell them, they will forget. If you show them, they will forget. But they will never forget how you make them feel. How does Zeke Friedlander make you feel? Well, for me, he gives me great confidence. Why? Because he has a consistent approach. Because he's a man of intellect. Because he's a man of integrity. All of those. What I've observed about him is he seems to be able to put himself in the position of those who come before him. 100 years ago, Andre Gide wrote, "True kindness presupposes the faculty of imagining as one's own the sufferings and joys of others." Pretty straightforward. Zeke, against the backdrop of the wisdom of the law, applied well, has the ability to shine light on all things that reveal the nuances of complex situations. That enables him to come to thoughtful, fair, and grounded conclusion where chaos could rule. I could talk about Zeke's role in leadership in the College of Arts and Sciences or the schools of law or a variety of places that he serves, including the foundation. But instead, I'll just relate one situation that occurred in the foundation, which is not as complex as some of the things you all deal with. But the principles I mentioned still come into play. Over the years, members of the university family came to know, and in varying degrees, to engage one Morton Bradley of Boston. Mr. Bradley was a collector, a curator, and a creator of art. When I visited with him in Arlington, Massachusetts, he showed my wife Judy and me 2 houses. He lived in both of them, one as a domicile, and both as places for some of his collections. They were filled with hundreds of paintings and sculptures in various stages of repair, presentation, and display, and a very elaborate security system, too. The Art Museum had known him and he them. The Lilly Library had known him and he them. The Wiley House Museum had known him and he them. When he died, he left the collections and a considerable sum of money to IU through the foundation. Not surprisingly, all 3 suitors came forward. Clearly, the Art Museum had been on his mind. Clearly, the Lilly Library had been the object of his generosity. Both had. He spoke fondly of Andrew Wiley, the first president of Indiana Seminary, the root of Indiana University. Mr. Bradley was actually descended from Andrew Wiley, so the Wiley House Museum was in the picture as well. When this came to my attention, it was not difficult for me to go to Zeke and say, "You are a neutral and thoughtful person. Please examine the facts and make recommendations the foundation board could ratify and the 3 suitors would accept." In fact, that's exactly what happened. And almost immediately after the facts were laid out and the decision rendered, all 3 of them came to tell me how fairly they thought the matter had been resolved and handled. One actually mentioned the wisdom of Solomon. And it was Heidi Gell, you know well. This is not the usual outcome among faculty. Robert Gordon Sproul, the Herman Wells of the University of California at Berkeley, described the faculty as 1,500 people who think otherwise. Well, bringing agreement and satisfaction was testimonial to Zeke's wisdom and approach. One of my favorite 8-word comments when I'm talking about or recognizing people who make such a difference to a lot of people is everywhere we look, caring hands have preceded us. Everywhere we look, caring hands have preceded us. Zeke's caring hands have left indelible marks on many lives. The lives of Indiana University, the lives of those who came before his bench, and on my life. I'm one of the legions who admire him, who count him as a friend, and who are grateful for the role he plays in our lives. Zeke, congratulations on the record you've achieved. Congratulations on your retirement. You and Linda will enjoy even more time together. But don't expect to be left alone. There are not enough good people, people of your caliber, for all of us to let go of you. Besides your friendship, there will be situations when we need your caring hands. All the best.
Thank you.
That's because you're Solomon.
Thank you for your comments. Judge Terry Crone, you're up.
Hang on.
Hang on.
Now everybody gets nervous. First of all, Zeke, let me say on behalf of everyone here, congratulations on your retirement. And we're all glad that you'll finally get a chance to do some traveling. Before I forget, Judge Vedic asked me to read this. The views about to be expressed are strictly those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the official, unofficial, or semi-official views of the Court of Appeals, any member thereof, the Supreme Court, or any other judicial officer of either general, limited, or special jurisdiction. Any resemblance to people, real or imagined, is purely coincidental, and any reproduction without the express written consent of Major League Baseball is strictly prohibited. In the fall of 1958, Ezra Zeke Friedlander left Newark, New Jersey, and arrived on the campus of Indiana University, Bloomington. A young man in a hurry, he was only 16 years old and didn't have a driver's license. He wore a white t-shirt with the sleeves rolled up and blue jeans, or what back in his day they called dungarees. He had a duckbill haircut that he has occasionally attempted to reprise to fill with mixed reviews. In other words, he looked just like Fonzie. It didn't take long for Zeke to make his presence known on campus. He quickly established himself as a major mover and shaker by winning the all-campus twist contest.
That's true.
His artistic talents were not limited to dancing. He could also sing just as good as he wants, and was a member of the prestigious and popular Singing Hoosiers. He double majored in government and history, and upon graduation enrolled in the law school, where he was a member of the famous F Troop, that well-known group of legal luminaries from the class of 1965, Fewell, Friedlander, Fisher, Foley, Freeman, and Fruitnick. After graduating from law school, Zeke became homesick for the fresh air and psychedelic sunsets of Newark, so he moved to beautiful Lake County, Indiana. While there, in addition to practicing law and being a part-time deputy prosecutor, he started a business endeavor which would eventually grow into the extremely successful Quality Dining. It grew from a couple of small restaurants to a conglomerate where they now own over 225 restaurants. He returned to Indianapolis and practiced with several different firms with a concentration in the area of business law, and became politically active with Larry Conrad and other various candidates during the 1960s and 70s.
In addition to his work in the law and private business ventures, Zeke has been a significant patron of the arts. He's a collector. He has an art glass collection that rivals the displays at the Indianapolis Museum of Art. He is a member of the National Board of Directors for the Art Alliance of Contemporary Glass, a member of the Indianapolis Museum of Art Contemporary Art Society, and a patron of Ahearn Art School. If you visit the IMA with him, he will give you an expert tour of the glass exhibits describing each artist and their respective techniques. He also owns pieces by most every artist displayed there, and his private collection is often viewed by art glass collectors from throughout the Midwest. His artistic interest is not limited to art glass. On the front porch of his house is a 6-foot-tall solid jade statue of a terracotta warrior that he brought back from China. His artistic taste runs to the modern and contemporary, and I have to confess that I don't always understand or fully appreciate all of it. One day we were walking to lunch to the State House, and as we passed the Lieutenant Governor's office, he noticed the life-size blue pig from the Indiana Pork Producers Association with the Indiana state flag painted on its side displayed outside of her door.
It's true.
Zeke commented on how cool he thought it was, and of course I thought he was joking. But without missing a beat, he then proceeded to tell me how he would really love to have that pig on the back porch of his house. I still thought he was joking, until he told me the only thing he ever saw that he liked better was an 8-foot-tall fiberglass purple ear of corn that he wanted to put in his backyard, but Linda wouldn't let him buy. He has had and still has an extensive collection of sports memorabilia. Unlike some of his generation, he's always open to new ideas and also has a creative mind in his own right. He used to own a restaurant in Indianapolis called Stable Influence, where he introduced the first salad bar in Indiana. While initially opposed by the State Board of Health, Zeke was able to convince them that salad bars don't pose a health hazard, thus paving the way for subsequent salad bars throughout Indiana.
It's true. Is it true?
Zeke was also one of the first judges on the court to recognize the value of having permanent law clerks to provide institutional memory, an innovation later adopted by many other Court of Appeals judges that has made it easier for us to process a heavier caseload without a reduction in quality. One day, while walking to his office to get him for lunch, I encountered one of his female clerks coming out of their office wearing only a pair of running shorts and a sports bra.
Okay, we might want to stop here.
You know who you are. Being a little taken aback, I asked him what that was all about, and he said, well, you know how well Casual Friday has caught on? I said, yes. He said, well, I'm trying to start a new trend. I want to call it Tube Top Tuesday.
I don't think so.
Told you I don't understand all. A transplanted Hoosier, Zeke has been an enthusiastic supporter of Indiana University, serving on the foundation board, funding scholarships, and being supportive in many ways. He was recently awarded the Distinguished Alumni Service Award. He's still a young man in a hurry, as anyone who has ever ridden with him can attest. Zeke is a graduate of the Richard Petty NASCAR Driving School in North Carolina and the State Police Emergency Vehicle Evasive Driving Course at Plainfield. So in other words, he drives like Tony Stewart being chased by a terrorist. He has also been a great sports fan over the years and has been a season ticket holder for many years to IU football, IU basketball, the Pacers, and the Colts. Despite attending hundreds of sporting events, he has never seen the finish of any of it. Whether it be football or basketball, and regardless of the score, he has to leave before the game is over in order to beat the traffic. He once grew tired of my waiting for an elderly gentleman to exit his vehicle in the parking lot of Shapiro's and actually reached around me and honked the horn on my car. He also collects people. One of my daughters once described her future husband as enthusiastically social, and I think that perfectly describes Zeke. It may be that there are 6 degrees of separation to know Kevin Bacon, but it only takes 2 degrees to know Zeke. I mentioned earlier that he won the all-campus twist contest at IU, and it turns out when he was telling the story, he mentioned the woman he won the contest with was from South Bend. She happens to be the sister of one of my high school buddies, and Zeke has been after me ever since to arrange to have the trophy transferred back from her to him.
That's right.
50 years and
He said he figures she had it for the first 50 years, and he feels he should have it for the next 50. A few years ago, Zeke was riding the ferry from New York City to the Statue of Liberty with his college roommate, Elliot Nelson. Elliot has been playing Robin to Zeke's Batman for over 50 years now. Anyway, Elliot strikes up a conversation with a younger woman on the ferry who was soon to be moving to Carmel, Indiana. Elliot told her he was from Indianapolis and asked if she knew anyone there. She said no, but her father had told her to get a hold of a guy by the name of Zeke Friedlander when she got there because he knew everyone in Indiana. Every time you bring up a place or a person, he has been there or knows someone who knows that person. Zeke was an original co-chair of the Indiana Supreme Court's Commission on Race and Gender Fairness and the founder of our court's CLEO program. Not only has he been a great innovator and supporter of equality and access to the justice system, but also a scholarly judge, writing and voting on over 6,000 opinions over the years. Zeke has always been a cordial and generous colleague. He treats all people equally and respectfully. It doesn't matter whether the person is extremely important or relatively unimportant. Zeke will treat them as important. Not long ago, he was being job shadowed by a sophomore high school student. While some of us might find this tedious, Zeke was happy to do it. He brought him to lunch with us and took a genuine interest in the young man and his views. By the same token, he's not intimidated by those of higher station or status. A couple of years ago, we were playing golf at Crooked Stick and noticed that former President George Bush was playing a couple holes ahead of us. When we finished the round, Zeke went into the locker room where he happened to encounter President Bush coming out of the shower. And without hesitation or trepidation, Zeke walked straight up to him and said, "That's quite a swing you have there, Mr. President." Granted, it probably would have gone over better had he waited for Bush to pick up a towel. But when Zeke asked me to say a few words, he asked that I try to be light and humorous and not deliver a eulogy. I may have failed, but I tried to do that. By the same token, it's not possible to reflect on his life and career and not think about how his epitaph might actually read. I think it would say son, brother, loving father, doting grandfather, husband, successful businessman, philanthropist, patron of the arts, learned judge, loyal friend, father of the salad bar, and inventor of Tube Top Tuesday. One last thing, Zeke, your golfing buddies got together and wanted to get you a retirement gift, but what do you get for the man who has everything? They wanted to get you a trip, but couldn't find a place that commercial airlines flew that you hadn't been to, so we decided
What did they do?
you weren't a true Hoosier until you owned at least one pig.
Is this what you were thinking? It's a big shot.
No, it's not. Too costly.
So there is no question about it, that is difficult to top. But I do want to tell my thoughts about Zeke Friedlander as well. who is the real Zeke Friedlander. And you know, this is the third separate speech that I've given on Zeke, and everyone has been about different topics, and I'm never running out of material. So let's start out with Zeke the Kvetch.
She's done very well, hasn't she? With that?
Sometimes he kvetches, and it's right, and sometimes not so much. Jeff Hawkins talked about the admission ceremony when I gave a tribute to Zeke, and I thought, gee, that was nice. And afterwards, he came up to me, and I thought, you know, he's going to thank me. He's going to thank me for all the kind words that I said. And what does he do? He says, you know what? I don't want to be known as a judge who has business experience. I want to be known as a judge who does all these important cases in Indiana jurisprudence. And you know, so he really did have a good complaint. He was right. He has done a lot of important cases. So let me just think of one for a minute here. How about Sassy the Pig?
Very important. For Sassy.
Another thing, I mean, Terry told you about what a terrible driver he is. He is a terrible driver. He is speeding down the streets of Indianapolis, zigzagging, cutting off everyone on the way. Last month, I was in front of him as we were coming into the State House, and he stopped and we parked, and he waited for me to walk together up into the State House, and he says, you know what, Nancy, I want to tell you, you should put your right-hand turning signal on. You know, the police are going to notice that. And I thought, you know, like they won't notice the 1,200 miles an hour that he's speeding. Zeke also has this, I don't know if anybody's ever seen in the wintertime. In the dead of winter, Zeke has this white fur, big, huge coat. And it's full length, and honestly, it goes to his ankles. And he walks and comes out of the elevator, and you're thinking it's right from a Quentin Tarantino movie. Or he's channeling Puff Daddy. And of course, we know that he, in fact, can sing. So we're thinking that might be your next career, a rapper. And so we're going to start with the context here as to what rap name you should be called. I'm thinking ZH Jazzy Zeke. What do you think?
No.
No? Honestly, Zeke has been a wonderful colleague in every single way. He is a Renaissance man. We've all learned that with his art collection and his world traveling, and he's a historian and a scholar. He's been a wonderful and generous colleague. I just want to tell you one story. Every one of us has been touched by his kindness and generosity. And one story that I have is that I have a fireplace in my State House chambers. And for years, it had nothing above it. And one day, Zeke came in, and he said, you know, are you going to ever put a picture on top of that fireplace? And I said, you know, I just haven't found the right one yet. And the next day, he brought in an oil painting that his parents had given him as a present for his law school graduation, and he lent it for me for 10 years, and for 10 years it was above the fireplace. No known reason. Zeke, you're just a wonderful, kind person. And finally, he has made a lasting and enduring legacy in all of his opinions that he's written. And he's made so many good decisions, but I just want to tell you about one decision, a decision he made in 2004, 11 years ago. 11 years ago, Zeke Friedlander said that same-sex couples can adopt. And it was the same common sense kind of Zeke opinion that said, hey, if a child can have only one parent and instead have two parents, why would we not want to do that? And that's the kind of forward-thinking, common sense person this is. So Zeke, I know that you're from New Jersey and you have adopted Indiana, and we too, from the Court of Appeals, want to give money to your son's scholarship fund.
Thank you.
That you set up for him. And so I give you our friend and colleague, Zeke Friedlander.
Thank you. I stand up. Thank you. Please sit. Thank you. Well, said I didn't want a eulogy, but I think I got one. You know, the most miserable people die, you know, and you go to their funeral and then you walk out and after the eulogy and you say, was that the same person? You know, they get elevated to sainthood, and I think today I've been elevated to sainthood, and thank you, I appreciate it. I'm glad I'm here to hear it. You know, I retired after 50 years, as you know, and in this room it is very special because 50 years ago I was sworn in this room. At that time, we didn't have 400 and 500 people being sworn in at a time, and we marched in the front, and there was enough room for us to stand. We stood, and we were sworn in, and our parents and friends and family were all in the back. So that's one of the reasons why this room is very special to me. And I just have a lot of people to thank. So if you'll bear with me, I want to do that. And I first of all want to thank everybody who spoke, and I want to thank everybody who's here. And I look around the room and I see all these people who have been an integral part of my life, and many for more than 50 years. And I thank you for being along with me on this journey. Judge Vedic, thank you. Justice Rush, thank you. I want to tell you a little story about Justice Rush, because when they were getting my, well, a new commission was brought in, and they were going to interview for judges who would succeed me. Justice Rush said, I'd like you to come down and meet the members of the commission, which is kind of unusual. I mean, because usually, you kick you out and that's the end of it, and or they transition you, as they say. And so I said, sure, I'd go down and meet them, and I met a couple of new members of the commission, and I met all the members of the commission, and Justice Rush said to the commission, this is the fellow whose shoes you have to fill. So what do you say at that point, you know? I said, well, I have size 12s. I said, I'm about 6'2", 220. I said, I can't move to my right, I can't move to my left, and I can't jump. Goodbye. So Judge Altice, would you stand up for a second?
Yeah.
I don't know whether he can go to his right, go to the left, and jump, but I don't want to ask him. But he sure made the 6'2". I think it's maybe 220, right? Okay. I'd like to thank Steve Lancaster and the staff. Steve has been here almost for as long as I've been here, or not quite as long as I've been here, and he's retiring next month. So I think he deserves a round of applause, and I'd like to thank him. I next would like to thank my colleagues who gotten along with me for the most part over these years, and who I've enjoyed being with and enjoyed being a part of this excellent court. And I want to thank the Supreme Court for not having reversed me many times, but for having been good colleagues also, and I appreciate all of you, and I thank you. I want to thank everybody for donating to my son's fund, scholarship fund. As you all know, we lost our son 6 years ago, and we have a scholarship in Bloomington in his name, and he is with me and our family all the time. So for me, that's very meaningful, and I really appreciate it. And it's something that will cause his name to be remembered and to live on. So thanks all the organizations, and thank the court, and thank my colleagues, and thank everybody for that. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everyone else who's here, the elected officials, the representative of the governor, and everyone else, and the bar associations. I really appreciate it. Now, I want to introduce my current secretaries and staff, and a lot of my clerks are here. But I do want to do one thing before I introduce them and show you what a difference in 50 years make. Someone said I'm a historian. Well, really, I'm a pack rat. So I kind of save everything. And I happened to save this because before April of '65, I wrote to a Supreme Court judge here in Indiana, whose name shall remain anonymous at this point, but his picture is on the wall. And I was looking for a job, and I wanted to be a clerk. I'm going to read you the second page of something which he said to me, that if I was interested after reading the above, which the above is unbelievable, he said, and you're interested in pursuing this matter further, I would like the following additional information. 1, a concise statement regarding your attitude towards the traditional concept of constitutional government. 2, areas wherein there is a need for judicial reform. Okay. 3, your political affiliations and your activity in your party. 4, your church affiliation and activity, if any. 5, your personal habits regarding smoking and drinking. Most chain smokers are nervous and less efficient. I'm nervous and not as being as efficient today, and I don't even smoke. Is your handwriting legible? I was out right there. And are you reasonably efficient with a typewriter? A typewriter, you remember what those were? This will be an electric IBM typewriter at your disposal. So I would now like to introduce my clerks. And I don't like to call them clerks because that's an old term that's carried forth from the British tradition. And to me, they're all outstanding lawyers. We couldn't operate on this court and in any court without the help of all of these fine, fine people. And these folks are, as I said, outstanding lawyers and do the job remarkably well. So I'd like to introduce first my secretary, which is Rachel Penley and Amy Heiser, who preceded her this last year. Would you guys stand up if you're here? Okay. I'm going to introduce the rest of the clerks, and then I want you to hold your applause because I'm not going to introduce everybody. But the other current clerks are Katie Bourne. Katie, would you stand? Now, Katie just had twins. She's back to work today for the first time. Jennifer McKenzie. Jennifer's had 2 sets of twins while I've been in the office. Heather Boyle. Heather only had 2 kids while she was in the office. You heard of one, Ellie. Well, she was a little older. She's only had 2 children, but only one at a time. And then Larry, who you've already heard from. In addition, I'd like all of my former clerks who are here, I would appreciate it if you all stand up and take a bow, please. I'd like to... I would like to now introduce my family, if I may. You probably heard the little one, he's gone. I'd love for them to come back in, if he would come back in. Yeah, somebody. Can't get out. I'll start with our daughter. Is he coming? Okay. Start with my son-in-law, Todd Hoffman. Todd and Amy Friedlander Hoffman, our daughter. They're from California. Just stand. You can stand for a moment. And the girls, Avery and Sophie. And then our daughter, Devin, Elijah, my grandson, my son-in-law, Chris Hunt, and Rocky. Solomon. The other milestone in this court that happened didn't happen 50 years ago. It happened 17 years ago. And that's when I got married to Linda and my wife of 17 years, and we were married right here in this court by Judge John Baker. I'm going to tell you a little story, a little background, that Linda's folks met at a baseball game. Linda's father has attributed everything in their life and all their success to baseball. He was a semi-pro baseball player. He met my mother-in-law at a baseball game. They had 7 children who had to live through baseball games their whole life, and I think 14 or 15 grandchildren. And so whenever we have a family get-together, he always attributes whatever good came in his life, and a lot of good came in his life, to baseball. So I'm going to explain to you, in their terms, what you mean to me. When I married you, I can't look at you. I really hit it out of the park. So I'd like to introduce my wife, Linda. Why don't you stand? I'd like to thank also people who gave me the pig. I almost forgot. Linda would too. Now, as I'm gonna, this is the end. Believe it or not. This gavel, which was used initially to gavel us in, was never used before. This was given to me a little over 50 years ago when I was president of the Student Bar Association at Indiana University School of Law, which is now the Maurer School of Law. And so it's never been used until today. 22 years ago, friends, and some of whom are here, gave me a gavel, which I've never used and has been in my office, and I'm going to give it to Gary to use when everyone is gavelled out after the judge has made her final remarks. So this is the other gavel. And this is what they call the end. I don't know what this represents, whether it's up.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So after this ceremony, we have a reception in the atrium, and we hope that all of you will join us for that reception. But now, Jersey boy, it's time to walk like a man, even though you were born to run, and you've got the world on a string. But never forget who loves you, baby. Every person in the Court of Appeals family.
Thank you.
All rise.
Thank you. You want to tell them if they're going to stay?